If you decided to watch the Utah Jazz in Summer League to watch Ace Bailey, you'd be disappointed because, well, he hasn't played very much at all. But if you wanted to see a young player absolutely dominate Summer League, look no further than his teammate, Kyle Filipowski.
Collier, nowhere to go. Filipowski driving. With the soul. Filipowski turning up with your chest.
And so far in Summer League, Filipowski is leading everyone in scoring, averaging over 29 points, nearly 8 boards, over 2 assists, and he's making an average of 3 3-pointers a game at nearly 7 foot. And these aren't just regular pick and pop threes that you see from a lot of bigs. He can shoot. Look at him here give the ball up. They set an off-ball screen to free him up, and whilst moving to his right, look at the fluidity of that shot. That is closer to Kevin Love and Lauri Markkanen than it is to a guy like Nikola Vucevic. And yes, I'm realizing I just used 3 white guys at once to compare another white guy, but regardless, that's the case. And if that's not convincing enough, how about this time in transition, where Cody Williams brings the ball up, and as the trailer, he catches it quite low, zero hesitation, no need to set himself, cash. Or how about this time spotting up in the corner, because why not? And if at this point you still aren't convinced,
defense on the weak side. Filipowski lets it fly. His 5th made 3.
Let me remind you, that right there is a 6'11" big man who did all of that in one game. And before you ask, yes, he can use that size and strength he has to bully smaller defenders in the post. Yes, he can playmake. Yes, he can rebound. And yes, he does look like the steal of last year's draft. Because it's easy to forget, Kyle Filipowski was never supposed to go in the 2nd round.
What player are you most surprised is still on the draft board today?
Christine, it has to be Kyle Filipowski. He was invited to the green room. For him to be sitting there all night and not hear his name called was very surprising.
Now, some people speculated the reason he dropped was because of a very strange off-court relationship involving him and his babysitter. I'd rather not get into that, but that is a thing. Others suggested it was a result of him not exactly having a standout attribute, despite him being quite good at a lot of things. Well, I don't know about you guys, but that level of shooting seems pretty standout to me at his size. And before you ask, yes, he did showcase all of this skill during last year's regular season as well, because I've seen people online talking about this being out of nowhere, or Filipowski is playing the best basketball of his life. I've got news for some people. Kyle Filipowski was doing this last year. I know not a single soul was watching the Utah Jazz the 2nd half of last year, and understandably so, probably half the Jazz fans stopped watching them as well. But if you were watching, you would have realized that their best young player wasn't Keontae George or Taylor Hendricks, definitely not Cody Williams, but it was Kyle Filipowski. Because after finally getting consistent minutes during the middle of February, Filipowski averaged 14.5 points, over 8 boards, over 2 assists, and shot 50% from the field and 37% from 3 on nearly 5 3-point attempts per game. And I don't need to tell you the Jazz were awful during this period of time, but we aren't going to let that detract from averaging an efficient 14 and 8 a game. And more importantly, just showcasing the skill he has at that size. I showed you some of his shooting already, but if there is another standout skill he has, it has to be his playmaking. Just look at what he can do. He has the ball out top here. Thibault does a good job at preventing the handoff, so Sexton cuts backdoor, and look at the absolute dime from Filipowski to find Sexton underneath the basket for an easy 2. Or just look at him here, casually bringing the ball up the floor against Rudy Gobert. Conley goes to help over, and the awareness from him to find Sensabaugh spotting up for the 3. And this is something Filipowski can do in addition to the playmaking out of the post and from the top of the key. He can grab the ball and go. I mean, how about 2 7-footers running the break, with Filipowski grabbing the loose ball before pushing pushing the pace, and then lobbing it up to Lowry. Another thing that you have to consider is when a big shoots as well as he does, is the gravity. Just to show you what I mean, here's an example where he sets the screen for sensor bar, and it's a slight hesitation from Bryce, and with Klingon so worried about Filipowski's three-point shot, he has a straight line drive to the rim. This is the advantage of being a shooting big. You see it with Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid at times, Al Horford, all of these guys, when they set that pick and pop to the three-point line, the opposition big is in two minds. Do they get out there and try to prevent the three, or do they protect the paint? And all it takes from these guards is sometimes a little hesitation, and they get an open lane. It is quite literally picking your poison. And when you are this kind of shooting threat as a big man, naturally, there's another part of your game which opens up, and that is the driving aspect. When he catches that ball 25 feet from the basket, and you have a 7-footer rushing to close out, he has the ability to then put the ball on the floor and drive to the rim. And we saw him do it on multiple occasions, where he would take one of those 7-footers off the dribble and just throw it down. And just to emphasize that playmaking, which I already showed you, how about taking Brook Lopez off the dribble, and then with Giannis helping over, a left-handed dime to the corner shooter? I'm sorry, that is a 7-footer. Okay, well, he's 6'11", but basically 7 foot. That is what he can do. That is a combination of all of his skills put together. But just as a scorer, his bag is deep. In addition to that shooting, he can take advantage of smaller defenders a post with soft touch around the rim, using hook shots, using spin moves. He has touch on mid-range jumpers and floaters, and obviously he is also successful as a roll man with pretty good athleticism and good hands. Offensively, there's not really any question marks about Kyle Filipowski belonging in the NBA. In fact, the only question mark is how good can he be offensively? So the natural question mark then has to be over his defense, right? How can a 7-footer do all of this and not be considered an elite talent without being a black hole on defense? Well, I wouldn't call him a black hole on defense. I would say Kyle Filipowski falls in a similar category to his teammate Lauri Markkanen. They aren't exactly the same, but they are both 7-footers who aren't exactly anchors of a defense, but they are good rebounders, they can move their feet on the perimeter, and they can block shots. Basically, I think Filipowski is a fine defensive player, but this is maybe where you have to question how he fits. If he's not going to be the anchor of your defense as a center, then does he work defensively as a 4 in the modern NBA with how quick people are? That is the question mark, and I think the question mark is over who is next to him. Defensively, I think he is fine, but with the offensive talent he has, it is worth trying to cater to his needs on both ends of the floor, because as of right now, he is the most productive young player on the Utah Jazz. That's just a fact. Now, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, dropping a like would be cool. Subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Have a great day.